Hello and welcome again to the Burning Bush podcast, episode 6. My name's Spencer.
I'm Sean.
I'm Zach.
And we're three Jewish teens growing up in a major metropolitan area, just giving our perspective on different things from, our demographic. Today, we're talking about a pretty heavy question about our purpose and the meaning of life and just sort of why we exist in the world and why the world exists, period.
The ultimate question.
Yeah, it's definitely a heavy question that I don't expect to give an answer on. But it's a question that I think should be thought more about in terms of like most people. I think it's a pressing issue we should be discussing more often.
Because we're kind of letting ourselves go and trailing off to this path that doesn't really... doesn't really help us in like what the meaning of life is, but we don't even know what the meaning of life is.
I wouldn't say trailing off on a path because we don't know if this is the correct path.
I think that's true.
What I'm saying is like when we're making developments in like science and stuff, I don't like... I'm just confused often on like why us as humans value things like science and math and order and logic over more primitive stuff such as like food, because at the root of philosophy there's no real indicator that those actually have more value, because the purpose of humans and people is still completely unknown.
You could say that those like developments in science and stuff and technologies, like that's all to make life better.
It's to make life more efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
But more efficient for what purpose?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the...
It's easier on ourselves, but like, what are we doing? What are we working towards?
Does it need to be easier?
Well, there's the theory, like the whole Big Bang theory is that like the Big Bang started and the universe has expanded, and there are some people who's saying that it already has expanded to its fullest potential and now it is shrinking, which means that theoretically it will eventually collapse back onto itself and just become that little singularity before the Big Bang, which means that everything that ever happens as of right now is just completely not important. Not only because we're insignificant in the grander scheme of the galaxy, but because the galaxy and everything surrounding it in the universe is just gonna like completely fade into darkness one day. If the theory stands.
I think that's a bad viewpoint to have.
I don't think personally, I don't see the universe just shrinking back into a point again, because there's no, like, why would it?
I don't think it's assumed.
Why would it start in the first place? For what purpose?
I mean, the theory is that it started because there was so much pressure on this little point that it had to open up, and it released everything that we know. Which it, over time became what we know.
When you say pressure on a singular point, that's kind of talking about how like black holes form, because there's so much density and pressure in such a compact space that it's forced to like collapse in on itself, and that's what like black holes are.
That'd be funny if like black holes were
first
black holes were like big bangs for other universes. That'd be funny.
Isn't like a black hole like the opposite or something? Because it's going, it's like sucking in instead of pushing outwards.
It could be like a wormhole and just like be a new Big Bang.
Well, black holes...
Y'all seen 2001?
No, I haven't.
I need to watch.
Yeah, we do.
Does it talk about like the theory of this stuff? No?
I mean, from what we know,
but
the universe...
it has some... It kind of is about evolution in a way.
From what we know, the universe is still expanding. We can see the red shift and the blue shift.
The ultimate trip.
And all these...
Waits for the time.
All these figures just constantly drifting away.
With black holes, if... I've always been interested by those because so we have been lucky enough to be alive when the very first legitimate black hole was caught on camera. Do y'all remember this? Like this happened like about a couple weeks ago. There's that picture
like a week ago.
There was someone who found or took
a picture
of a black hole, which theoretically though should be impossible because no light is supposed to escape it.
So how did we get that picture?
That's what I'm saying.
The picture that most people saw was only like the center of it though too.
It was just like that
that little
black
like
circle
ring.
with the
that's
red
not the whole
orange
picture.
ring.
The whole thing is like zoomed out a lot from that.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
That people don't know that.
There's also like, if black holes are consistently sucking everything into it, does that mean like inside is just like incredibly dense matter, like antimatter or whatever that is, dark matter? I don't know.
Just another.
No, we're just making stuff up at this point.
Yeah,
I have no idea. It's such like an unknown concept. There's so much stuff about the universe we have like zero idea about. A lot of people like can assume we've like kind of reached the peak or like the pinnacle of technology, and we still have like zero idea.
Everything's still gonna keep. We're on like a curve.
Yeah, because everyone probably has thought
being
that
learned
in the past, like probably in 1950, we're like, oh, we're at the peak, guys. This is it. Some guy said that.
Everything that can be invented has already been invented.
Well,
no, that guy. No, I'm saying that guy was pretty wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's like pull back a little bit.
I
mean, I don't know. Sometimes
this isn't about the meaning of life.
It's kind of funny.
Well, I think that's kind of where it all kind of lies, because we assume like you can't really talk about the meaning of life without going into the grander scheme of like the universe.
Well, then you have to go into religion.
Isn't that just how that's just how the universe works?
How did we created? Why were we created?
I feel like our lives is like
that's just happening. It's just happening.
Our lives is pretty much just the stuff that's on Earth.
Yeah, we don't when we think of existence, we think of Earth and we think of gravity and we think of light and oxygen. When in reality, it's so much more, and all the universe is just like a big bubble, like a very very big, probably sphere with a bunch of matter inside of it.
I thought it was like a donut shape or something. Wait, no, that's wrong. Never mind.
Well, I've heard it was like an ellipse shape, but I don't know.
Regardless,
it's something with quantum stuff.
There's so much of like there's so much more in the universe that we don't know about.
Yeah, and we like assume stuff. Like we all assume. Well, I mean, a lot of people assume that there's other life. We haven't really seen it. We've seen some evidence of it.
Yeah, but I feel like
we've seen like water on
on Mars.
What's the probability that we're like the only planet that has life? That's why it's.
And then there's that like theory that there's like infinite amount of like realities and like universes and this.
That's a whole other.
Well, if there are other life forms in the world, then right in the universe, we aren't alone. And that sort of obviously will give life way less meaning, like less importance. So if we're just this rock, like this species living on a rock flying through space, which is kind of the common belief in like most of the heads of like people I talk to our age now.
People who
there are a lot of atheists, like I feel our age, who just like Like there are very few, like obviously logic does side with them, and I'm an evolutionist myself, but there's so much stigma against not believing in the theory of evolution, and it most likely is true, but I feel that just like totally discourages open communication about like why we are here. So I really think that if life exists on other planets and in other galaxies, then we need to start talking not about the purpose of humans, but then like why the universe exists in general. Why did the Big Bang happen? Why doesn't nothing exist?
I suppose. Well, I mean, we have no clue. Like if it happened, how it happened, when it happened. Like, no.
It all we know is
kind
like.
When, but that's also part. That's just.
That's
also,
like
that's also theoretical.
All we know is like the Big Bang Theory, we think that is like an explanation for the origin of the universe, but like you can always just keep like the Big Bang. That explanation doesn't really give us any more information than just saying that the universe has existed for forever and like God created it, because in essence the Big Bang is no more realistic than a god, right?
I kind of agree with
Possibly,
that.
Yeah.
The only difference is it's way more believable to us because we assume like like matter and talk about like science.
We found more evidence.
The thing is like, but it's also
as technology evolves.
And like this might be controversial. You could say that like there's a lot of stuff in the universe that kind of works out very well. And that's like why God exists.
Yeah, there's a theory of like the probability of a planet to hold life is so low because you need a lot of different factors.
You do need everything to go well. Like you need to start creating the first organism, and that organism needs to happen. Like
just life.
But even in order to create the first organism, you need like the right sized planet orbiting at the right distance around the right sized star with water and an ample source of light, the right like level of the atmosphere to absorb greenhouse gases. You need enough I think there's another factor. You need like the planet Jupiter. It's magnetic, not magnetic. Its size and mass makes its gravitational pull so large that any asteroids coming into our solar system are soaked up by Jupiter, and not soaked up, but they're pulled in by Jupiter, and that's the reason why we don't have to worry about asteroids as often, because that's another reason why if a planet like Jupiter didn't exist in our solar system, we probably wouldn't have enough of advanced life.
Well, we don't know that somewhere out there could be organisms living on a planet like Jupiter.
Right.
Because they could possibly live in different conditions that we do.
Well, Jupiter's also gaseous.
Okay, I'm not saying, like any other planet that doesn't have, the same consistency of the Earth.
Like, you're saying, non-carbon based life.
Sure.
Like life that, is totally inconceivable to us.
Yeah.
You don't know that, there is obviously the possibility, and I don't know why people have ruled this out. I don't want to say, I believe in ghosts, because I don't, but there's no real proof that life can exist without having a physical being to attach to. I can bring up this theory again. I've told you guys both this, but I just would like to let y'all know for my logic to progress. Mm-hmm. There's a theory that I made where if you rebuild a person atom by atom, and you take a person, record the exact placement of every atom in their body, and then recreate that same structure of atoms with the exact same atoms of the exact same elements, and you finish putting the last atom on the last hair follicle of your human clone, and you let it go, it obviously won't be alive.
Yeah.
And that means that there is something different from the human you took the records of and the human you created. There's a difference there that isn't physical, because you're physically identical, but one of you is alive and one of you is dead. And that makes me think that there is something giving people life that isn't physical. So who's to say that there are lives or people, we can call them aliens, who don't have physical bodies?
Maybe.
That's
that's what I said. The human body needs to start with some sort of source of energy.
Right.
Kind of like when we're in the womb.
Yes.
Our mom feeds us, and then that's how we start.
But then you have in vitro fertilization, and we have that's sort of a shortcut, but it's still at the heart of it, it's still like using an egg and a sperm to build a human. And I think that's still just like a shortcut to create life in the regular way. When we begin to create life artificially without those parts, then that will have cemented my faith in atheism. But until then, I don't think I won't believe that, and I don't think it's ever going to be possible to do that, because life can only exist through the way it's been existing.
So you're saying like cloning won't really be possible?
Well, there is cloning. It's just
Cloning.
Yeah, but like cloning through another like womb.
Right.
Yeah, kind of have to.
You can do like lab.
But you still have to like have
you
the
still
same
have,
sort
like,
of
DNA.
It has to be like the same sort of environment anyway.
Right.
Yeah, kind of.
So I kind of could piggyback on that and say like, yeah,
you
need some sort of spirit in there.
So, but where I'm going with that is like, there could be other species and other life forms
they don't have
out in the universe that like we cannot comprehend, and they can't comprehend us, living in like separate realities. And if they're both considered life, that just keeps going.
Realities? Do you mean like different dimensions, or like just living life differently?
Not living life differently, but it's hard to explain. Yeah, maybe dimensions. Like how we live in 3 dimensions and the universe is in 3 dimensions. There's no... Like, who made the rules for the reality that we live in? Like, why don't we live in 4 dimensions?
I thought we do. Wait, what's the 4th? Is the 4th dimension with time? Or is that
Okay, fine. Why don't we live in 5 dimensions? Like, there's no reason why we don't. It's purely just, like, because that's how we were born.
That's how we started.
So like,
it's just the rules.
There's clearly, like, the
rules.
The rules of the universe, like, why does gravity exist?
They just kind of happen, but there could be other rules somewhere else.
People have just been so, like, quick to, like, accept, like, yeah, this is, like, the world we live in. And like, the universe started just, like, because... And we're insignificant. Like, there's so much more to that we just don't consider delving into.
I mean, you can look at it. How you said it has to kind of be perfect in a way for everything to like kind of go on this path, starting from the Big Bang in air quotes, becoming a planet to where we live. That planet shifting to be an environment that like we can live it, like an organism can live in, with light, and then the organism evolves like in this perfect pathway still to be what we are eventually, which goes through multiple phases.
Why does an organism need that stuff? Like, why...
What stuff?
Like, why... When you say the perfect path where it needs, like, light, and it also needs, like, water, and it's like, why are those basic things...
Or maybe
the only things necessary for life?
Maybe somewhere else the planet was developed differently. And what organism...
So there are
that has other...
So there's other life forms that require different things.
Yeah.
So that would mean that there isn't a perfect path for life to form.
It's just
life just forms.
It's like our perfect path. It's not the perfect path.
Right.
I mean, we've come to the point where we're like questioning it.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
That means something. There's also a big difference. This was in our evolution episode, a difference between life and intelligent life.
Yeah.
Right? To create life is a miracle all in itself, but once we created life, it took the Earth another like 2 million years or long ass time for us to create intelligent life.
If we could start
to build technology.
We'll start. I guess you can make the definition of intelligent life using the Earth, like using the world we live in to like their advantage.
There's no other way to define it.
A good way to define it.
This is a good time as any to talk about the Joe Rogan podcast that we watched maybe like a week or two ago. talking about how there is a small amount of evidence to prove, not prove, but to suggest the possibility that in between the time of the dinosaurs and the time of humans, there was another civilization that existed that was swept away by like a meteor shower or something.
Meteor shower.
I don't have all the information or evidence in front of me because I'm just talking based on something. Do you remember who the person was?
Didn't we watch that one?
know if I was-
No, wasn't it evidence of a flood?
There was evidence
People
of a
say
flood.
that's what the flood was, the Noah's Ark flood.
Yeah, Noah's Ark flood.
the
Huge.
Which there is evidence behind.
There's also evidence of like when you drop a pebble into a pond, it creates ripples in the water, and there are like evidence of those same types of ripples being seen in mountain ranges that are
So you say
that is
by a
that is
meteor.
suggestive of a meteor hitting the land
water.
and creating
Or
tectonic
land.
ripples.
The-
And if
Maybe.
that's true, then that means that we are now able to finally communicate and delve into another society that has basically had no contact with ours. That might have been relatively advanced.
Before us.
There's the theory that that is where the Lost City of Atlantis tale comes
So
from.
are you implying that
I don't think they
that
would have
society
been
that
as,
lived before us is exactly like us, or not exactly
No.
like us, but like the same, like exact same? Like
They probably weren't
species?
as. I doubt that they
this-
were
like-
as far.
Like
along.
were they also
like
was-
biologically, were
Yeah.
they humans?
Yeah.
No.
They would probably be.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
They
because,
would probably.
I mean,
They just maybe they were just one of like the
from what's been
more advanced societies of the time, but doubt that they would have been as advanced as we currently are.
Well, what do you think would happen if those same meteors hit us today? Do you think we'd be able to survive it?
I think so.
I think there'd be enough people in the world that would.
We could either we could probably find a
Because we're
way
like
to,
around the whole
eliminate
globe,
those
unless there
meteors.
was something that destroyed like the whole planet.
Unless like a
Yeah,
planet
but-
sized like a half planet sized thing came towards our planet, which is reasonably like can happen.
How long
Maybe
ago?
At some point, it could happen. It could happen any second.
Right.
It can happen any time, any
I mean,
day.
we'd probably know in advance.
We-
With,
I mean,
like,
yeah,
the
we'd figure it
technology
out
we have
with like
now.
a few, yeah. But it could happen,
It could.
and with that,
Yeah.
are we surviving? That's a tough question.
And that just like so much of it is tied to like why does life exist in that form? And how does life, like the dinosaurs,
Yeah.
like why did they exist before us? There's so many unanswered questions about like why anything has happened, and it just baffles me that people our age do not like think about it. Not even people our age.
But does the why matter though?
Of course it does.
Well, I mean, to answer that simple question you asked about the dinosaurs,
It was like, why were organisms this
That's
way?
not-
But like,
that's not
what is
right.
that? That answer doesn't really like give us much that we need to use, really.
But with the dinosaur thing,
I think.
I
sorry.
think it's like the dinosaurs were superior, and
True.
they were kind of like the advanced species of the time, probably. Or not,
Well, there was
maybe
so
not
many
advanced.
dinosaurs. There were so many
but-
different species.
They were probably the most powerful species at the time.
There was no. Well,
There,
we
there
didn't
wasn't
Dinosaurs
one
was not a
species.
Okay, yeah, but like
When you say the dinosaurs were the advanced species, like
okay, like dinosaurs in general.
it's like saying
Because dinosaurs had different species that lived like
Yeah.
in the same like
A lot of
terrain.
different species.
with
It's
each
like
other,
saying, like-
same planet.
like
that was like most animals.
like mammals is like it's like a group of living things, a group of different
Yeah.
species, in the same way dinosaurs are. Dinosaurs are all reptiles.
Yeah.
Like
Wait, that's not right.
No,
They,
They're not?
how'd they turn into birds?
exactly. That's what I was saying.
evolution.
Yeah.
Chickens, bro.
But we don't know.
The
Like,
chicken-
reptiles.
like-
They were like. I
the
thought they were
chicken-
their own thing.
Pterodactyls.
I don't know
I
if
mean,
that's
could
what-
dinosaurs communicate with each other regardless of their species?
I don't. Oh no!
I mean, don't
Of
animals
course
com-
not.
Wait,
How do you know
wait,
that?
hold on. Animals communicate with each other.
But
Like
not all. Okay,
Not
yeah.
like,
of
not with
different
like
species?
complex like language. Oh, you mean different? Well,
like
kinda.
with body language.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
body
like,
language, no.
they're
But
like making sound. I mean, they're not like
we don't know.
They don't translate to
we
words.
can't understand their sounds. So for all
we
always assume what dinosaurs sounded like. We don't actually know what
we
they
can
sounded like.
That's
we
a good
can
point.
So we don't know if they could communicate or not.
we can understand and communicate with them as well as they can communicate with each other. Like we understand when like a dog is like sad or happy or in like opposed to attack. That's what they feel.
Yeah.
Like we don't communicate any better than they communicate with each other. We just develop language. But that's about the evolution.
So
I'm
maybe
talking
that is the limit of change.
I'm talking about like
Were apes around the time of dinosaurs?
No.
no.
That makes sense.
So
Definitely.
there's the possibility of 3 totally different like existences of life on Earth. Like the time of the dinosaurs, the time of the in-between species, and the time of us. So
Was there even an in-between species?
we don't.
Just like-
that's what I'm
that's
saying.
just
We
kinda
don't know.
apes,
It would have been
I
like
guess.
other mammals or
I
something.
mean, did
I'm
like
talking. No, the theory that we watched in the Joe Rogan podcast.
Dude, I think.
okay, wait. According to this, if we evolved from apes, and there's like a huge meteor shower, like one big asteroid or whatever happened that hit the Earth and like wiped out the dinosaurs, like what was that species before apes?
That we don't know.
What became
There would
apes?
probably be remains of them if there were something.
We don't know now.
I mean, we'd find like bones.
Oh, bone. Okay, yeah, maybe.
We probably would know that if that was like a thing. We also like don't know what we're talking about, so
Right.
everybody
you
keep
can
that
also
in
look at-
mind.
You can also look at why we don't have that middle species between apes and humans right now.
Hmm.
I don't
What
know.
I have said was that like us humans are kind of preventing that. Anyway, I mean,
It's definitely weird that a singular species has become way more evolved than all other species, and that I think is what
why did that?
that's the root of like what a lot of religion is based on.
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
humans were made in the image of God because to our knowledge, we have not found a species that is more intelligent than us. That could either be because
Yeah, we saw
we are the
Earth.
most intelligent species in the universe, or we are still
on our
so primitive that we haven't been able to find other species. Do you think somewhere in the universe there are like multiple planets with different species coexisting?
That's
Species
I think
like
that's definitely
like advanced
possible.
species, like humans, human level or
Yeah.
better.
I mean, like we're
do you think
better,
there's
but, like,
do you think
different
there's
species.
somewhere in the world where like
Somewhere in the world that exactly.
Or instead of
something
instead
like
of-
our species living with another thing that's not our species, like that species, but that's not the same species.
Nobody understands.
So
I
like
didn't get
so
that
like
at
some
all.
random blue alien lives with a green alien that looks different, thinks
right?
similarly.
Yes.
Like instead of on Earth, it's just humans, is what you mean. Instead of that, it's
Right.
2 different species.
Yeah, because
That
Yeah.
ties back to, do you think that we are the only people living in this universe?
yeah, like why the heck don't we have
I
a
don't-
green alien neighbor? Why couldn't another species evolve with us?
It's the same type of question as like, again, why does the universe
Yeah.
have 3 dimensions? It's just like we were thrown, humans as a whole were thrown randomly into this reality
Yeah.
with no answers, and over time we've just chosen to like be okay with that.
But we're just trying to find out how.
I don't think we are
and
trying to
why.
find out how anymore.
The people that
We're
are
just like
I mean, it depends. Some people are trying to just advance in like space travel. We've clearly been advancing in that. We're
well,
already trying to get to
I mean,
Mars.
like we're not
We're trying
really a
some-
lot. Almost all space programs are underfunded. The only reason we're really making any progress at all, I would say, is because of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Like that's
only
it.
reason.
Not only
One
reason,
of-
but he like realistic.
One of the big reasons.
I mean, what I see is
SpaceX.
that he's pushed it forward a lot, and he's kind of emphasized it more than anyone else has.
Right.
And I think that's our next step.
That's our next guest.
Becoming a multi-planetary,
Let's get Elon Musk on the podcast.
becoming a multi-planetary species. That would be
That would be sick.
Oh yeah, we'll do that eventually.
very crazy.
And then there's all those, and then once we get to that, we're like Star Wars, where like the Mars colony rebels against the Earth colony.
That'd be pretty cool.
But I mean, like Mars is gonna have to rely on Earth
Truly?
if humans move to Mars.
At first, but then they're gonna
We're-
they'll rise up.
We're nearing
Long
the end.
time.
We're nearing
Long
the
time.
end, so I'll bring up this point. The first country to establish a colony on Mars will be incredibly like powerful.
Yeah.
Like if America,
Well, as long as like Mars is like valuable.
even still,
Like, if it gives
though-
us nothing, like yeah, it doesn't really mean anything.
but like, I'm just saying, there's nothing stopping the first colony from literally overtaking like a whole planet.
No, it's too big.
Mars
Well,
is smaller
we could
than us.
easily-
What's
Wait,
stop?
no,
what's
wait.
Yeah,
stopping?
but it's still a whole planet.
What's
You could-
stopping
sure.
the colony from being like, Mars is ours?
Okay, then we're gonna have to like. Okay, if we want to have that whole like colony to take over the planet, you're gonna have to move a ton of people from that country to this country,
I
like, just the
agree.
planet. So either
Yeah, it'll be like
that
a
whole
long
country is
process.
somehow gonna manage to move to Mars,
It'll
which
still
will
probably
first of all take a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources. So that's unreasonable.
Right.
Or that whole country somehow does find that way, and then whoever that like someone's just gonna fill in that country. But
It would
I
have
don't think still a whole country could run the world. Of like, and their world is gonna be Mars.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't say world anymore, just their planet, because there could easily just be another country that like shows up to the planet and it's like,
Yeah,
hey,
the only
we're
way
gonna
is,
live
like-
here too. You can't do anything about it, and they try and fight, but our country, like or whatever country, can come prepared.
Right.
Or it depends how much of a head start the other
just
country
nuke
got.
Mars.
Just nuke Mars, problem solved.
Even the
rid
time
of
period
Mars.
we are in, it's very weird to think about like the fact that we are at the moment still currently participating in history. Like there was a time when like people just existed and like lived their lives
Yeah.
before
Now it's-
America was founded or discovered.
Yeah, but those
And that's what we
those
worry about.
people still like advanced. But
Right.
the people in America.
We will
like,
eventually,
most likely-
our exact specific time period will be talked about in history. And
But
that's
as of
what
right
I'm
now,
so interested
As
in.
of our life, like nothing too big, I could say, has happened yet. We've kind of just been dancing around it for a while.
Basically, just
I can-
the internet.
Like
The internet is like, I would
like some
say
specific
this
stuff.
is like
Like,
one
can we
of,
propose
if
we're gonna
not
lynch
the
them?
biggest advancements our species has made ever. The internet, like, life is so much different now than it ever has been before in the history of the entire world.
It's way more efficient.
That's episode 1.
It's way
Right.
more efficient.
We've touched on a lot of different parts.
Yeah.
We could
Alright.
tie each thing to each thing.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up there because I think we gotta
Massive
start
episode.
getting everything back to, I don't know, whatever. I'm completely brain dead. Thank you guys for watching episode 6 of The Burning Bush. I will be back next week. Bye, y'all.
No research.
Yep.